Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 178 with Mark Douglas from Warrior's Choice. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Justin Bizzarro. Again, that's Bizzarro. And you can find the podcast at Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs on Facebook and Instagram as well. So, Mark, how are you doing today?
Very good, Justin.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and, what your background is and sort of how you became a food entrepreneur. So let's start with the very beginning, because I think the Warrior's Choice story is a very interesting story.
Well, I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army, and my family's got a long tradition of being in the military, actually going back to the Civil War. And how did I get into the food stuff? This is kind of a crazy story, but in North Carolina, approximately 40 years ago, and now I have to lie about my age, but I had somebody show me how to make barbecue sauce. And, it was one of those things, I wrote it down, I don't know why, but I stuck it in a folder.
There you go.
And I've done it for years and it had all kinds of things in it. And then I made the decision when the pandemic hit to pull that folder out and try to replicate, what I had and try to make it into actual, produce the barbecue sauce. And by trial and error and going through all this for months, and I almost got killed by my wife several times on this because it had so many spices in it, and try to figure out what was in it and how to get the right formulation was really monumental. And probably the biggest frustration was we did it on some ribs, and my son came home, and he's a warrant officer pilot, and his comment was, "Dad, it doesn't taste like the stuff you used to make." So anyway, over Christmas for 3 days, our kitchen was just spices and that. We went through it, and finally he goes, "That tastes like your old stuff. That's perfect." So all that time's gone by, we produced it, and probably the biggest thing is to do this was not really, to make it a big business or something, but Disabled American Vets, the organization, was to send some money back to them for stuff they did for our family, my brother-in-law, and actually my father over the years. So that was kind of the backstory on it. And, right now I think we have 4 just really outstanding barbecue sauces, and I think the taste is unique, and I think anybody that tries it, I would be surprised if they didn't really love it.
So tell me how you sort of came up with the name and why the passion for the military and why sort of, I know the sauces are rooted in your sort of background, but tell us the story, because I know there's a layering of legacy here and sort of things like that as a military family and things like that.
Well, there is. And my father was actually a B-24 pilot, and he spent, he retired out of the reserves actually, but, he's World War II, and many of his stories were actually not known until after he died, and we found like a folder with all these things in we never knew, and bombing missions, things that were just, really incredible, and flight log books and things. And, after going through that was kind of the genesis of the whole thing. That's where it kind of started. And it was always in the back of my mind. And also, what DAV, Disabled American Vets, had done for our family. And I thought, gosh, it's kind of a good way to honor all the military, the veterans, active duty,
absolutely,
family members,
absolutely,
and that for their sacrifices. So we themed it after all these military themed on the products, and we actually the barbecues was the start, and there's other things planned down the road, but that was the whole theme of it, and I think it's a pretty powerful thing, because I think most everybody knows somebody who's either served in the military or family members, and so it kind of, I think it resonates, across the board.
Yeah, and interestingly, I graduated in a class of 29 boys from high school, and 2 gentlemen that I went to high school with both served in the military, both in the Army, and one actually was killed in action in 2007 in Iraq. But it's you. But you're right. Everyone knows someone. Everyone knows a feeling, or there's been generations of losing troops. So there's a very ingrained passion, I think, especially in American culture, that the military is a very strong sense of pride for us as a country and as a people.
And what we tried to do is make it so it's not just a barbecue. So it's a gourmet. It's a great product. And we wanted to do that because how better honor, the military than have something. I did not want to have something second rate. And why did it take so long to get it quite right? Because we were so meticulous, and we just wanted it to be right.
Yeah.
I didn't want any association with something that was just something on the shelf. I wanted something that somebody walked by it and it'd jump off the shelf. You'd see it and say, wow, that's really great. And that's kind of the whole
absolutely.
way we've looked at the whole product line.
So let's talk about that journey. I mean, before you and I have known each other for a while as you've been building this brand, and the bumps and the bruises, and we'll get in more into those. But something that we often don't talk about that you sort of talked about and you've had the courage to do as your journey, and first I want to talk about is when you don't like something or you don't feel something is not up to your quality, I want to go down this rabbit hole. One is you're like, I've already spent the money, but I don't want to keep throwing good money after bad money. So I want to talk about that philosophy because it's something that I feel that is very important to any younger entrepreneur that's out there. And then two is sort of how your mentality is so quick to rebound and still get the solution done. So sort of tell me about those experiences, Mark, because I think there's a lot there and value that you continue to move on no matter what.
Well, the original barbecue sauce, we got that recipe down pretty well. The mesquite and hickory, pretty well. The hot and spicy was a whole journey, and I got to tell you, that one took almost 4 months because we couldn't quite. Didn't taste right. It was not hot enough. It wasn't spicy enough, and it was kind of like, what went wrong? And of course, the co-packer was like, "Oh, all is well. It's perfect," and it wasn't perfect. And I know we had a couple of go-arounds saying, "No, it's not to standard," and we found out later that they had left off. One of the ingredients had been left off, one of the spices, which was kind of critical, and they had substituted a different chili paste in it. And it sounds minor, but it affected the taste just absolutely. It wasn't what it should have been. But, we're a little slow, so it took 4 months to figure out what was wrong. Yeah. But, in hindsight, I think that's the best tasting one now. And the original was the one I thought that was the wow one. Now I'm like the hot and spicy, and we've actually, it's great on shrimp. And how did that happen? That was a mistake. Somebody's cooking, we say, hey, let's try it on some grilled shrimp. And it's the best tasting that you can ever imagine. And I would never have guessed it, so, but it's frustrating. And many people, I set a budget, and of course I hit that budget, and a certain accountant wife of mine said, you've hit the threshold, what are you doing? And, I don't like to quit easy, so we kept pushing on. And, I think now the product is perfect. Now we just got to get it out there and get people to try it. I think if they try it, you're going to find it just very unique, and you're going to love it. But getting to that point, I did not know what I didn't know. So some of the things I've run into, and I think you can't sacrifice quality. If you do, that you're like everybody else's. When you go in the store, I can take barbecue sauces, and most are they're not that good. And I think when you want a barbecue sauce, if you're a connoisseur of barbecue, you kind of know. Some of it's like sugar water. Yeah. I did not want that. I wanted to be something that you try it once, you're going to come back for more, and you're not going to let go.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that's kind of the whole thing about it. But you got to be in for the staying power. If you there were so many bumps that I didn't know about, and you can get frustrated. But if you push through it, and I think that's where we're at now. We're ready to get this thing launched and get it out there.
And I think it's a really cool thing that you talked about. One is because you're in acidified foods, one with the barbecue sauces. Two is that when it comes to the science of food, a lot of the times you're not sure where it's off or what you need to do. And you can't change too many things or many things, or even some things, or even more than one thing at a time, because you're not sure where it's off. So you end up only being able to tweak one, and it really starts getting into science versus a recipe on making sure that that's dialed down, which is a cool part of your story. I think so. Now you've got it packaged. How did you decide on the design of your logo, the design of your bottles? I mean, where did that sort of come from? Because you have a very unique package, and I want you to sort of talk about it, because each bottle has a great name associated with it, each kind, and sort of the design on the label is unique as well.
And I'll just pull it out and look at it. Like Patriot's Pride, that was the original one. And, it's a very patriotic-looking bottle. And, am I the genius that figured out the labeling? No. I have a graphic designer who is one of these. He tweaks everything, and he's just got a creativity about him. And we played around with these things, and we've had camouflage, which ties all the product line together.
Absolutely.
And so, that's kind of, everybody that wears a uniform, whatever service, they've got camouflage uniforms. So we tied the product line all with camouflage. And it's just subtle things like that. The Warrior's Choice, we had the 5 services. We did it with stars, and we got into the details with it. And, this one's got the flag on it. And
so explain to what you mean by the 5 stars and the 5 services.
At the top there, you got Navy, Air Force, Army, Navy, and then Coast Guard. And we put that at the top. That's why there's the 5 stars above on our logo. To kind of honor all the services.
And so the 5 service branches of the military of the U.S. government. I mean, of the United States country.
Yes.
Sorry, not the government. But, yeah, I guess in a way. But and so let's continue on. So you have the original now that we've talked about, and Hot and Spicy, which was the one that...
This is the one that made my hair. I used to have totally brown hair until I started this. That's why my hair is now gray.
Yeah.
This one was the one... and we kind of went back to kind of a tough, a Spartan look, warrior mentality.
Absolutely.
And, this one we went round and round with, and it's a cool-looking graphic on it. It just is. And I think that anybody who's ever worn a military uniform, somewhere buried in there, they're a warrior. And I think anybody has got a warrior spirit somewhere in there. In their being, they just do. Whether it be maybe they're a tennis player, but they got that fighting. I want to do great at what I do, and that's kind of embodies what we did with that.
And I think Sparta and using the name Spartan that's sort of the idea. Well, Sparta in Greece being a civilization that sort of, or society that really made the military effort and honor the center of its being, right? So it's a perfect name for that product. I mean, every Spartan male, I believe, was put into the military starting at a young age, and so on and so forth. So I do love that bottle.
This is the one I like the most because we more effort when we did this one. This one was one definitely that jumps to the top for me. If you're not a hot and spicy person, maybe not, but with the effort that went in this one, I will always love this one the most. So that one, I just got to put that to the top of the heap.
Awesome. So what else we got over there?
We got All Heroes, which has the 5 branches.
Barbecue sauce. Yeah.
And this one, it's funny when we designed this one, the camouflage. There was somebody who says, well, it shouldn't be blue. There's no blue camouflage. I said, we can make the camouflage anything we want it to be. But I said, we wanted it loud so you'd see it and say, anybody, again, in uniform, they're all heroes in our headband. So, let's recognize that and make it so people noticed it. And so that was this one. Now, hickory.
And did you have to get permission to use all of the things on your bottle?
Well, yes, we do. And this one we actually got initially, we found out we were violating something, so we had to change the graphics so it wasn't in violation.
Yeah.
Because we had used one that was protected, and we didn't even know it until we drilled down and found out later. But we've since changed that so we don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
But this one actually,
That's
great
phenomenal.
taste,
I love that one.
and it's loud. And if you walk by this in a store or anywhere, I think it just jumps out at you. It
Absolutely.
has to. So, and we got one more, and that's the mesquite. So if you're from Texas, everybody and this one here we played around too. And as I say, you've got the silhouettes of soldiers, Marines, whatever service. We've got them just in there. And again, honoring, what they've done. And actually, this has got the Texas, because mesquite, you think of Texas barbecue. And actually, I was at Fort Hood for many years. And that wasn't one of the most fun places I worked because, they work, 15-hour days anyway. But the one thing that most soldiers would do there is that they always would barbecue. And that was very popular. And there was a lot of barbecue places around.
Yeah.
And so, this one came out, again, great taste. And we call this one the Defender. So, all the people that are basically defending the country or as a deterrent or whatever, I think this is a great honor to them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's because Texas being so, patriotic and things like that, I think it's a pretty cool bottle. And like you said, it goes back to your heritage where you spend time at Fort Hood. So, you have the pack now. You've now produced it. You've got your orders. Where are you going from here, Mark? Sort of some of the hiccups you've had along the way. Where do you feel that your next opportunities are?
What we're doing is we did, and this people probably will say you're crazy, but that's okay. I've had people say that before. We did a photo shoot with brisket, ribs, grilled ribs, chicken, shrimp.
Oh, that's awesome.
And even hamburger. Again, we don't know what we don't know. I had two relatives tried it on Hamburg, the original, and they said it was fantastic. So we added that in, and we're learning as we go because we didn't really plan on that. But the product line is done. The internet, we're not up. Our website, we've had some glitches there.
Yeah.
And the photo shoot, we actually had to reshoot because we had some issues there as well. But we wanted it to be absolutely. If you go on a website, our goal was to have it so you're not going to get off that website. You're going to want to look at, and you're going to want to look at the storyline. Some of it going back to the Civil War, actually war stories, and some of them were pretty comical.
Yeah.
I know some of my father's logbooks. He had actually kept a diary, which we never saw until after he died. And some of it was where he had a flight instructor that actually ended up in a hospital with almost a mental breakdown because of something he did when he was doing his training. And you can't make this stuff up. It was just phenomenal. Some of the stories in it were just absolutely laughable. And so we've captured those, and I think our website will have not only the pictures of the stuff in use, but it's got also a collage of war pictures and people that have served in that. And so it's kind of a neat thing, and we're also going to have it so you can post your military story.
Oh, that's cool.
And you post your military story, and, every quarter somebody will win some barbecue sauce. Because everybody's got a story. And, unfortunately, my father was very secretive about his experiences. He did not share. He kept it very, very quiet, and we did not know. But when we started going through his things, we were shocked at some of the stuff we found. So this is kind of a way to honor the people before us and the ones to come, the ones that are going in the military. And many don't understand the sacrifices to do it. But actually, my son, I said, hey, you got your college degree, don't go in the military. Now I want to be a pilot. So now he's a helicopter pilot, UH-60 pilot, and loves it. So, everybody's got a story. I think this is a great way to not only have a great product, but one that gives back as well. So that was kind of the theme on it. And it may have been crazy to do all this, but, the game isn't over. We're going to push on. Ultimately, website will be the first line of attack.
Absolutely.
The second, we'll try to get it in grocery stores, commissaries, and the like. And that's a big challenge, and you don't know the challenges until you run into them. But I found most of the people I know that started businesses like that, they normally quit at the very early stages or halfway through because they get really frustrated, and you just have to power on through it. And,
Always.
And I think that's where we're at now. So we're ready, looking for a real bright future with it.
And I'm very excited because I think your approach is great. I think your marketing is great. We can sort of see here, if anyone's watching on the video, that you have a 4-pack there that looks like a restaurant 4-pack that I think is pretty sweet. And I think your approach to market, you've got more than one sauce. You've got 4 solid sauces. You've got options. People can see it and be loyal to a brand because you have multiple. So, I mean, one of the cool things, I like the way the labels are. They're shiny. They pop, like you said, especially with the camouflage. So, I mean, in your mind, where do you feel? Is this something you feel that you're going to pass on? I mean, is this something you feel you're going to build into your retirement? I mean, how do you see your legacy going with this brand?
I think this is going to catch on fire. I don't know how fast, but the intentions originally was just going to be, this is going to sound funny, it was going to be just one kind of barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
But, you do taste testing, find out, hey, I like mesquite, I like hickory, I like hot and spicy. So it expanded.
Yeah.
And then I went into my mother's recipe book. Probably not a wise thing to do,
Yeah.
but we've got some other things that are in development. One is a casserole, which I've never served it to anyone that has not just given it very high marks. Because you go in a store, a lot of stuff they buy isn't very good.
Yeah.
And pizza was another one. A lot of these things go back to, years and years ago where you got the best pizza and, you try to copy that, and that's what we're trying to do with that. Will all this happen? I don't know, but that's...
it's very exciting.
It's kind of going to try and see what happens with it, and hopefully it'll catch on fire.
And I think you're having the right approach. I know you have some dessert type items or snack type items as well you've worked on, and just your whole broad line of products. I think that you're a guy who's always working on something and building, and I'm excited because I think as we do more podcasts or we do a part 2 or part 3, we'll see that you're growing beyond just the 4 barbecue sauces. I think I said hot sauces before. I meant barbecue sauce. I'm sorry if I did. But the 4 barbecue sauces.
Yeah, I think, it's funny. Some of these things, like he mentioned some baked goods just briefly. And originally we started with that, and, we've had to slow that one down a little bit because it needs more development. But it's something that was something my mother had come up with, probably 50, 60 years ago. She's no longer alive, obviously, but my sisters would give that out as Christmas gifts. Yeah. And anybody that's ever tasted any of those items, it's always wow. It's not like this is good. It's wow. And they look forward to it every year.
I agree, yeah.
So we've tried to hopefully bring that, to market at some point. And, I think, there's a broad spectrum of products. This is not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
This is probably too aggressive. I get told weekly that, you're going a little off the deep end, but, we'll see what happens. And as I say, the idea is, it's a give back, and we'll see how it goes. But I think if people try it and we can get it to market, I don't think you're going to find better stuff. I really don't.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part is what people don't realize is that initial step, and concentrate on just getting your product right and commercialized before you jump into the social media and the photography and the website building and the brand building. You've sort of taken it the right steps. And while it looks like nothing's happening, what it is that you're putting all the right pieces into place. So if something does happen, you're scalable, because often what entrepreneurs do is they rush to market, then they start getting orders. Their business isn't scalable and they can't take on the bigger business. They don't have the website in place, they don't have the production in place to support the website and the marketing that they suddenly put into place. So, I think the order, just by happenstance, for most entrepreneurs when they go about it the way you did, which is I got a budget, I really have to drive it. Okay, I went over, but I'm this far. It forces you to sort of get in there and do it the right way, even though it's not intentional. You want it to be, 3 months, I want to be up and running. Well, we all know that that's highly unlikely in anything.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. The pandemic caused this all to happen. So if we had not had it, probably that folder would still be where it is. But, everything slowed down, and, I had too much idle time. So this is what happened. But, it's kind of exciting, and I think it's got a good possibility for a good future. But the simple things like, how do you box the product? There's a lot of things you don't know until you try it. The first box I shipped out got all busted that I sent to my sister. Yeah. And, you go back and say, ooh, I guess I didn't pack that quite right.
Yeah.
And there's people that are experts, and actually food service partners, they got expertise that I don't have in, boxing and how to make stuff look a little more presentable. But we're tweaking now to try to get that stuff ready. So when we launch the website, it'll have some of these products out there, and you're just going to be anxious to get it. We're going to have cutting boards and some other, Warrior Choice products that you can buy as gift sets and that, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to have a good end to it.
I agree with you, and I think that we're right at this time, and we're seeing the world get more confidence with things like that, and go back to American products and start to see this food security and American food sources, especially as the pandemic has started to release up somewhat. We've all of a sudden become heavily reliant on importing of a lot of things. So, one, it's an American company. It supports troops, and I think you mentioned, part of the proceeds go to
Disabled American Vets Organization. And, somebody asked me, well, why them? Well, my brother-in-law got sick over 25 years ago, severely disabled. And they stepped up and did stuff that no organization I have seen ever even come close to doing. And, you don't forget that. When my sister's family was in dire straits, they stepped in and they helped just beyond belief. And that's never been forgotten. And so, if it gives back to that organization, it'll help somebody down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of and hopefully, if this does really well, they'll do really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we're hoping is going to happen.
And I appreciate that, Mark. So as we sort of wrap this up today, I mean, you've had a long journey. I mean, I want to make sure I give you time also, however long that is, to sort of just make sure you talk about anything that you want to talk about, any bumps in the road, stories, or any hopes or things that you felt would be valuable.
Well, I think if I'd gone a year and about 4 months, my wife hadn't killed me, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you look at my garage, I'm afraid to open the door because I've got boxes and stuff in there from experimentation and samples. It looks like a distribution center.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of strange things that have happened. But as I say, I'm glad I dusted the folder off because you hate to look back and say, hey, I never did that. I wanted to try it. So
yeah, absolutely.
The folder is out and it's open. My wife has said, don't open any more folders, and I'm going to try to, I'm going to keep this scoped into what I had on the plate. But I think it'll be, if you get the products, you're gonna love them. And most of the products you get in the grocery store, I think if you try them, they're mediocre at best. And my goal was always, can you copy what was made? That you made homemade, can you get close to that? If you can, it's going to be much superior than anything you're going to buy.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen, I think.
I agree with you, and I think that what you've done is you've stayed true to yourself. You've stayed true to who you are in building your brand, and you haven't let people sway you or let obstacles get in your way. Like we talked about, making sure you had the right permission from the right military branches to use the logos and get the labeling right, make sure the actual labels were connected right. You've sort of checked all the boxes along the way to make sure that you've built something that's worth standing on, one to leverage, or when these companies like a Walmart or a Publix or a Kroger or whoever starts taking interest in this, you have the scalable product plus the website to back it up, plus the story, which is so important. And I think people often launch brands and they're like, oh, I'm good at this, let me just launch it, but they don't realize that the story and part of who they are as the entrepreneur is how you launch a brand or a product line. And without tying that to who you are, it's very hard for me to just say, I have the best barbecue sauce.
Right.
You're just another barbecue sauce. It may taste better, but there's also got to be the taste, the barbecue sauce itself, because people like it, and then the storyline behind it to, sort of build that trifecta in the brand that you're doing now. And then in a way, because you have that story and you have tied it, it's allowed you to sort of inherently, you're going to get a group of loyal clients and customers from the military, hopefully.
I think you're right. And the learning that went on in this, I actually researched back, and I had family members pulling up all the family tree and all that. And my father had all this in a folder, but we did not know. This went back to like the Civil War. We got pictures that, basically, it's pretty crazy to find all this stuff, and some of it I did not know.
Yeah.
And we found the ranks of people that World War One, and in the storyline, and some of this we knew bits and pieces. But when you start going back and really researching it, we actually had a museum pull a photograph of a Civil War picture.
That's pretty cool.
And so we put this into a family tree, and that'll be also on the website. But we went back, and where we could get pictures, we got most of them. And that was, they actually opened the museum in New York in the middle of winter to go in, and it was closed for the winter, to find a photograph, because the museum director says, I think I have that on the wall in there that was donated many years ago. So all these things popped up, and of course the family was like, wow, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that in closing, that's kind of a lot of stuff has gone on that we didn't know.
Well, that's so important, because I think part of it is now you have this whole family legacy that really has now been able to be resurrected and then fortified with what you're doing.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is pretty cool. So just beyond the barbecue sauce or the dessert or the snack type items and the casseroles and the pizza, we're really getting into the grit, which is there's this whole legacy of military and you and your story, which is why there's such a compounded passion that really drove you to do something so, which I think is, it's not only is it good, but you're also changing a life potentially, thus changing the world with the disabled veterans, with the passion towards the military, saying, hey, let's take pride in it. The military, we're a unit, we're a brand, we are a certain group of individuals who have stood up and served our country, and I think it allows people to do that just in an everyday way, support the military, one, but also feel like I'm a part of something greater because I served. It's not just over because I'm no longer in the military.
That's right.
I'm here, I'm with my people, this is what we do around this brand. So I think it's just an amazing camaraderie that you're going to create around this. And it's very cool. I
appreciate that.
So thank you, Mark, for coming on the podcast. And everyone who's listening in, please share what we're doing. If you have a family member or you yourself are in the military, share it with friends and military friends. I think what Mark's doing here with Warrior's Choice is incredible. Where can they find you once you're up and running, Mark?
Well, the website should be live in about 3 weeks. And that will be posted, and you'll be able to find it, and that'll have the products where you can go ahead and get them online initially, and then from there hopefully it'll migrate. It is in some stores right now, but the ultimate goal is to get it on the website where you can get it country-wise and actually APOs overseas and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so.
And so is that just warriorschoice.com?
I don't have it in front of me, the actual site.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll make sure I post it on the script. So if anyone's looking at it, when you look at the podcast, I'll make sure it's in the description so you guys can find it down the road, and I'll update it as soon as it's up and running. I'll let everyone know that your website's up and running as well.
Perfect.
So again, thank you, Mark, and thank you everyone for listening in. Again, I'm Justin Bizzarro, and this is Justin the Food Entrepreneurs Podcast. I hope everyone's learning and sharing and giving back, because that's the whole point of doing this. So thank you everyone for listening in.